Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting of Wednesday, October 19th. Can I have the roll call, please?
Dan Carey.
Present.
Peg Coniff. Here. Salem Derby.
Present.
Jennifer Hayes.
Here.
JP Kaczynski. Joe McCoy.
Here.
Dan Rist.
Here.
Tamara Smith.
Here.
Joy Winning.
Here.
Okay, could we please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Oops.
Behind us now.
Where's-
Who wants to move it? Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could I please have a motion for the approval of the minutes of October 5th,
So moved.
2016? That's correct.
Second.
The motion, a second for the approval of those minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is there abstention? Any
One.
abstentions? One abstention.
Abstain, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're into public speak time. I just want to make a few comments. First of all, just for clarification, public speak time, we are limited to basically only listening to you because as open meeting laws, any topic legally needs to be advertised on the agenda for us to be in deliberation. So if we don't engage with you tonight, it's not that we don't care, it's because we can't by open meeting laws, it would be a violation. We cannot be in deliberation with something unless it's advertised. Second of all, as far as the role of council, because I have a feeling I know what some of your issues are, I think we'd love to hear it. I think most, probably speak all of us here are supporters of the arts and the arts coordinator, but we do not, our role in the budget is to basically approve a budget. We can't even move money from one line item to another line item. All we can do is take money away from a line item. So our financial ability as a council is somewhat limited. We're in what's called a strong mayor government, and that those fiduciary responsibilities remains predominantly with the mayor. We do have a public public hearing starting at 6:15. So if we don't get to everyone speaking, after we do have an important issue that we have to address quickly at 6:15. I think close the public hearing. They can go back to public speak time if there are more of you who would like to speak, because obviously if anyone's here, we'd love to hear you. We do recommend that, if there's a lot of similarities between, it would be nice if one person that kind of represents the majority of your vote on a similar issue relating to this topic. And because there are so many, if you can try to keep it to about 3 minutes, that would also be appreciated. But moving forward so public speak time again. So if anyone here who would like to address the council concerning something that is not on the agenda tonight, please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Hi everyone, Seth Lepore, 12 Chapman Avenue, East Hampton. So I just want to, I appreciate all of those clarifications, and we wanted to make some clarifications as well because we know that a lot has been going out on social media about this. We are in full knowledge that the arts coordinator position that we want to talk about has funding of $29,000. That $11,000 comes from the Adams Grant from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, but we want to talk about how that position could be fully funded through the city. We know that the $11,000 is good for another 2 years, but we're worried about what happens after that. We're not here to cause drama or do anything like that. We're here actually to thank the current mayor, the former mayor, and the city council for everything that people have done thus far. There's quite a few of us that want to talk tonight, so I just want to get to my piece. A lot of people would joke about Burns being the mayor of East Hampton, but there is always a truth in a joke. Burns is usually the first point, or was, I'm sorry, the first point of contact for people when they come to the city. Let me just go through a few things that the arts coordinator does. Bookfest, Cultural Chaos, Light Up the Arts, Eat, Map, Hatch, workshops, running a new gallery space every single month, being in charge of all the volunteers, as well as doing grants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When I decided to move here, I wasn't sure if I wanted to. Brianna was actually the arts coordinator at that point. I walked in there, charged like an East Coast person, and said, why should I move here? Give me 3 reasons. She gave me many more than that. I still wasn't satisfied, moved to West Hampton, then decided to move here and have really made a home here. I feel as an artist and as a arts advocate that I can take risks here that I can't take anywhere else. I have a home here. I've started East Hampton Collab with 2 of my co-founders, and we are in a very good collaboration with East Hampton City Arts as well as the municipalities. One of the things that I want to point out when I go around and talk to different businesses, one of the things that I hear is how much the arts makes their businesses better. If you talk to Jim from Mount Tom, he'll tell you that the first Cultural Chaos was the best day of business he had ever had. period. We went from 5,000 people the first year to 10,000 people the next year. People want to be here. I have over 20 letters. There's someone from Pittsfield who says that she comes here for her culture and her art. She comes all the way from there to be here for this. Burns, want to take it? All right.
Just, I'm sorry,
Burns
Burns, but just for the...
Maxey,
yeah, okay.
86 Williston Avenue, East Hampton, Massachusetts. East Hampton, Massachusetts. Okay. So I just want to thank you for listening to me today. I do want to ask you, and you can just nod, I know you can't really speak back, but if you saw the Mayor's Art Challenge video online, and it was a really awesome video, and it was just great to see how inspiring of the work that we've done in the city over the past many years and what we've done recently. So if you have a chance, go online on YouTube and like that video. It's very important. I have to admit something. I'm not really a rabble-rouser. I don't like rocking the boat. I like meetings. I like patience. I like process. But something has come to light recently that's made me feel some urgency. Since the East Hampton City Arts Plus coordinator's position became vacant and the position was available online, there's been a lot of people that have come to me and they've been asking me questions, lots of questions about the position. Some things like, you know, did Seth Lepore, did he really state the job correctly in saying how terrible it was? You know, they asked me, what am I getting into? Is this a stable position? Is this as time-consuming a position as this community says it is? So I answered these questions, and it really brought up a lot of memories for me because I started to think back to when I applied for the position, which was in 2011. And I was so excited to think about what I could do for the city. And I applied, and it was a position, and I think a few of you may remember this, a few of you might not, that there were no benefits as part of that position. And so when I applied, no benefits. The position was then relisted again with benefits because of the hard work of some people who brought that issue up with the city, and it came to fruition that the position needed benefits. That was huge. It's a very big deal. Since that time, when I had that position in 2011, the city has incrementally increased the funding for the position from 13% to 70%. I don't know if you heard that, 13% to 70%. And that is a huge testament to the support for arts and culture that the city has. And I want to thank especially Mayor Karen Cadger for that, because I think most of that happened under your administration. So thank you. You know, sometimes we look around and we think that all the good that is here is a given, but like CPA or labor law or East Hampton City Arts Plus or the Pascomic Land Trust, but I know you know that's not true. It takes a lot of people to come together looking at issues and opportunities. And sometimes they come together at the dissent of their friends or their neighbors or their former coworkers. So I'm here tonight to ask that the city pay 100% of the arts coordinator salary through the city budget. And here's why. Because after several years, they won't be able to apply for the Adams Art funding. It's going to, I think because of 10 years of funding period time, they're not applicable. So this would prepare us for that financial transition. Because it would streamline the budget for the coordinator. The coordinator deals with 3 different budgets currently. It can be very confusing, and that position is very time consuming. It would alleviate a little bit of time and energy on that job, and I think that that's very important. Also, they have to raise additional funds for cultural chaos and programming, like Cultural Chaos and Public Art and Book Fest, et cetera, et cetera. This would be a way, if we could just take those funds from the Adams Art Grant and put them directly towards programming and have the city fully fund the position, it would really streamline it. Also, another reason is because it's time that we do this. ECA has been around for 11 years. It's been an anchor for our community, and neighboring places look to it as a guide for innovation and creativity. I think we really have this opportunity to be leaders in our region. Also, because the next person coming in really deserves this. They deserve the recognition for the dedication that they're going to give to this position. And I will hold them personally accountable for the high standard of work that they should do, because I promise you, I understand what that means. We've already laid the groundwork for this to happen. We're on the right track, and we can really do this. We can really do this. It's not a lot of money. So I'm asking you that you stand behind our mayor and our planning department to put forth 100% of the salary through the city budget. And I ask you, when they do, that you approve it. So, thank you.
Anyone? Oh.
Go ahead, Marsha. I'll wait for you. Marsha Morrison, 24 Winter Street, East Hampton, 01027, Massachusetts. That is one hell of a hard act to follow. Right? Thank you so much for Burns for saying that. I too am very much behind the what I would call the necessity of the city fully funding the position once, in fact, the grant is gone. I know that everyone in this city works very, very, very hard, and I know that everyone in this city works way beyond what is considered the 35-hour work week, and I know that. This person does too, and deserves to have the same kind of salary fairness that the rest of the city has, or the city employees have. I thank the mayor, I thank the council, I thank this great city for being so arts friendly over the past 12 years that I've been here. Just to give you an example, we were talking about the economic basis, what the arts do for the economy. My house is now worth about 40% more than it was, maybe even 50% more than it was when I came in 2004. There are people dying to move into this city, and they're willing to pay over asking price to get what they want. That's part of the responsibility of you people, and also because of the arts and culture we present. So I don't want to say anything more other than to say I'm hoping that you can find a way, the mayor can find a way, and you can find a way to assist or to support the mayor to fund fully out of the city budget, particularly when the grants disappear. Thank you.
Okay, what I would like to do, because we're getting close on this public finance, I was thinking if I could have the mayor speak for public speak time, for her mayor communications, because she may address some of the issues you're talking about. Mayor, would you like to mayor communications right now before we go into public hearings?
I can wait till after.
After public,
Absolutely.
yeah, after public hearings?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll take one more, and then again, we're gonna have to do some finance stuff, and we can go back. So if you could again state your name and address, that'd be terrific.
Joe Landers, 27 Howard Ave, center of the universe. If anyone remembers those bumper stickers. I've been here for about 20 years. I watched the Cottage Street area go from being shuttered to being lively. As Marcia says, property values have gone up. We have 4 new microbreweries in town, and I know part of it is because we have the world's best water, but part of it is also because this is perceived as a place that's up and coming. As a result, I'm hoping the tax base is increasing, and that the revenue stream for the city has gone up, and that there might be the possibility of increasing funding for this position. Based on talking to Burns and also talking to the last cultural director, the position requires far more than 35 hours a week. I would like to see not only the position fully funded so that one of those budgetary issues can be moved into programming and not become something that the person has to worry about in order to just maintain their salary. I'd like to see the city explore options for providing additional support, whether it was AmeriCorps, whether it was
reading a little bit on city departments for some special skills. For instance, in budget, people who may be very good at one part of this job may not be able to wear all the hats and may need some additional support, and I'd like to see them get that support if they need it. So I'd actually ask that the city try to go beyond just funding the position to also providing additional support for the position.
Thank you very much. Okay, so as I said, we have a little bit of finance stuff to do, and then we'll come back to this public speak. So can I have a motion to open public hearings?
Move the public hearings be open.
A
Second.
motion second to open public hearings. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. Councilor Rist.
For two reasons, I am going to start with a $138,000 appropriation request for CPA funds, because this explanation that our park director will give to you is actually what the bonding is dealing with. So let's start with that. The CPA approved this. I am the chair of the CPA as well. I think it was 8-0, none against, one member absent. This is for a long ago planned and now needed renovation of the entranceway to the park, and also renovation of a very beautiful stone building that is a bathroom that's not being used because it needs a lot of work. And I'll let John explain it to you, all of you. You should have received the map that shows the renovations, the Daly Park Field renovations. I'm hoping you all got this.
John Mason, East Hampton Parks and Recreation Director. Yeah, the 138,000 request through the CPA is to leverage another 322,000 through the state park grant program. That's the same grant program that funded the boardwalk project as well. There is a time necessity by the end of the fiscal year, or actually by the calendar year, to get the appropriate bonding verbiage into the state. So we will remain eligible for that. We're hoping to hear back mid-February on whether we did receive the grant dollars. Like Dan said, it is to redo the front entrance. It is a traffic nightmare with people crossing and coming in and out of the park, especially during busy times. We're going to make the stone building bathrooms ADA accessible. We are also going to add some ADA accessible playground features at the playground up top, and additional parking, a couple of parking spaces as well. This has been on the Parks and Rec plan for at least 7 years now, as long as I've been here, and it goes back even further, I believe. The stone building, at least, project goes back even further than that.
I just wanted to alert the council that the map you have is an older drawing, and
Yes.
they're still studying whether or not you'll be able to turn toward the one-way traffic flow. If you look at the map, right now it's not showing that, but it's going to be improved, and this drawing, this design is still being looked at, but unfortunately they can't look at, this is a very old drawing and an old design, they can't look at it until they have the funds in place to pay for the design. Am I correct on that?
We can't spend, the state grant is reimbursable. We cannot spend any funding before July 1. Even after we get approved, we still can't spend any funding until after July 1 of next year. So any money we spend on plans or designs is non-reimbursable, and we'd be out that money from the state. So we're on just a concept of drawings right now before we move forward on the full project.
Are there any questions from the council for Mr. Mason while he's up here? No. Councilor Swift?
Would you still have the toll booth?
That would be moved into the park, yes. So it would be off the road. That's one of what I talk about, safety concerns of driving in and out. It'd be moved down into the park, probably like 30 to 50 feet down into the park, maybe further.
Okay.
But so yeah, it would alleviate that traffic that's right on Daly Field. They can just zip right through and not have that obstruction.
Any additional questions from Mr. Mason? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does anyone want to hear from the public who would like to speak to this appropriation? Please come to podium and state your name. Okay, not seeing any. Councilor Rist.
Just before I make the motion, the Finance Committee approved this 3-0. I make a motion that we accept the supplemental appropriation request. The amount requested is $138,000 to be appropriated from the CPA Reserve for Open Space account, $49,200. From the CPA Reserve Fund, $88,800, for a total of $138,000 to be appropriated to the Daly Field Nonotuck Park ADA entrance renovations, $138,000. The amounts requested for the following purpose: to provide funds to the East Hampton Parks and Recreation Department for the Daly Field Nonotuck Park ADA and entrance renovations.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve the supplemental appropriation of $138,000. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Okay,
The next issue is the borrowing bonding that is required by Park, P-A-R-C. And the city will do a resolution from the city council and also a bonding motion. This is so that money's in place. We won't actually borrow this money, but we have to have bonding authority in place. It's part of, I'll let the finance director or the mayor explain that further. But this is relating to the CPA grant, and I just wanted to comment that this grant is an example of how CPA funds leverage grants in lots of ways, housing and urban development grants. In this case, the park grant for the park renovations. It's a great thing to have, and those communities that don't want to do the CPA are really making a big mistake. But that's just a comment. So, Mayor Cadger.
Good evening. So in front of you, you have the bonding request. And I think Councilor Rist made it clear, this is nothing that we intend to do. This, if you had, the resolution that you approved, if you look at the language at the very bottom of it, it just says that the city has allocated $460,000. So this is a park grant that John, and it's a PARC grant. It's a state grant that John is applying for. And what they require, a little different than some of the grants we get, what they require is that we have the funding in place. You'll probably remember from the boardwalk. So that's why it has, that's why you have a borrowing request. And we have no intentions of borrowing because if we don't get the grant, then we'll be rescinding this anyway. But it had to be in place, and we have to certify that to the state as part of John's application. So, and the language that is in front of you is the language that pertains to the vote. So that's the vote that's required. So these are just requirements from the park, PARC. We had to go around in finance subcommittee about it, for the application. And it just certifies that the city has the funding in place. Typically for grants, what we do and what we're allowed to do on just about every other grant besides the park grants is we go into a deficit because we're awarded the grant, we know it's coming, and the city is stable enough to spend the money and then get it back in. So that's how it goes. But with this, it's just a different requirement. So any questions on that?
Any questions from Mayor concerning this? Nope. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If there's anyone else from the public or the city who would like to speak to this borrowing authorization, please come to the podium. Not seeing any. Councilor Rist.
So there would be two motions stated. The first is a motion that I'll move that I move that $460,000 is appropriated to pay costs of completing the design, permitting, bidding, and construction of Daly Field renovation at Nonotuck Park, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow $460,000 to pay the cost of the recreational facility under and pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 7-2 of the general laws, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the city.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the bonding borrowing of the $460,000. Any additional questions, comments from the council? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Secondly, I move that the city council approve the city council resolution which I will ask Counselor Coniff to read to give my voice a break.
A resolution to file and accept grants with and from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs for the Parkland Acquisitions and Renovations for Communities program for improvements to Daly Field Park. Whereas Daly Field Park is by and far a community-wide asset, and the preservation and improvements to this facility are a city priority as evidenced in the most recent open space and recreation plan. And whereas Daly Field Park is dedicated to park and recreation purposes under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 45, Section 3, and whereas Daly Field Park ultimate restoration, guided in principle by the master plan, will greatly enhance this facility with improved infrastructure, park entry, ADA accessibility, etc. And whereas the main focus of the plan is to increase the accessibility and the restoration of infrastructure at Daly Field Park to adequately host events, activities, and meet the needs of all community members. The overall cost and fiscal budget constraints prevented the city from proceeding forward with implementation as one project. And whereas the project was instead viewed as a series of phases to be implemented over time, by priority as fiscal resources were available, with the intention of securing grant funding when and if available to assist in this effort. And whereas the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs is offering reimbursable grants to cities and towns to support the preservation and restoration of urban parks through the Parkland Acquisitions and Renovations for Communities Grant Program 301 CMR 5.00, and whereas the Daly Field Park Restoration Project will cost a total of $460,000, and the city has allocated $460,000 in funds for Daly Field Park Restoration Project. Almost done. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor be and is hereby authorized to file and accept grants from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, and that the mayor be and is hereby authorized to take such other actions as are necessary to carry out the team, purposes, and conditions of this grant to be administered by the Parks and Recreation Department, and that this resolution shall take effect upon passage. I therefore second the motion to accept this resolution.
Okay. Okay, so the motion is second to accept resolution. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Isn't government wonderful? Okay. Moving on, we now have, and I'll ask the mayor to explain this because the park director had another event to go to, $36,000 from free cash to purchase for the Park and Recreation a 4x4 Silverado pickup. The newest vehicle they have is 10 years old. They have a 2000 Sierra that's no longer can be inspected, and they also have one from the DPW. Recently, and as far as I can remember, the Parks Department usually gets a hand-me-down from the DPW and the Highway Department every time they need a new truck. So it's already had a lot of miles on it. But because the Parks Department doesn't drive the kind of miles that the DPW does, they get a lot of use out of this. However, they need something with a little more pep, and this is the first time they're actually going to get a new truck. Mayor Cadre, do you want to explain anything else on this?
So, what you have in front of you, obviously, is a funding request from me for $36,000 for a capital request, and it's for the Park and Rec. And as Councilor Riss said, it's for a brand new, unusually for the park, pickup truck that they need. They had a 2001 Chevy that will be taken. What they have now is a 2001 Chevy, which will be taken off the road. And unfortunately, they also had a vehicle that was taken off the road because when our vehicles are taken off the road, that means they are no longer recyclable. There is no home for them. They cannot pass inspection, and they go to the highway garage. And once a year, we surplus our vehicles for bid. People might buy them for parts, all different things, but there is no more home for these other than, to recycle. So And it's true, John is used to getting vehicles from the DPW. It extends the life. The Parks and Rec wear and tear is a lot less, so it extends the life on them. But again, he's basically down 2 vehicles. So this is one request. And originally, they were thinking that they needed, as you'll notice in the request, this is a 2500. Originally, they were thinking they needed a 3500. And after going through the department and carefully, consulting with the people that are using it, our highway department, our motor repair, they decided that they don't need the 35, they need the 25. So they're getting exactly what they need, not more than they need, and still saving a little bit of money off getting a little bit smaller version. But this is exactly what the tree warden needs and the park.
Any questions for the mayor, Councilor Hayes?
We're a green community, and we're supposed to look at like flex fuel and other alternative fuel options. Did you do that?
For trucks, this is what the park needs to maintain their park and the cemeteries, and this is a need vehicle. So, and as you can see, they order them off the state bid. So these are state bid. These are state vehicles.
And
state bid
there are
vehicles.
flex fuel trucks available for state bid.
And
Was
there
the
might
pricing
be.
different?
There might be, but what we do is we request a state bid for pricing, and they bid all these vehicles just for that purpose. And so that's what they're getting. They're getting a vehicle that is, a brand new vehicle for once in a long, long time, and a vehicle that, that they can afford but meets all their needs. And
Councilor Windler?
So are they going to be using this also to service some of the needs for the cemeteries?
yes,
Because
exactly.
our park and rec also
That's right.
maintain
Brookside
all of our
and East, right, East Street.
cemeteries.
That's right. East
as
Street,
well as
Brookside.
all of the parks in the town, not just Natatuck Park, but park out on like Councilor Rist's area,
Right.
the park down in Millside and Pleasant Street and
Pleasant Green.
Yeah, all of them.
Right.
So I
and
see that you have the towing package, so it's going to be able to
yeah.
be multi-use.
Right, and they even looked at some of the additives to see if they could eliminate them, but they're safety issues.
Right.
So the answer became no.
Right. And
Nothing fancy, just what they need.
if I could just answer the counselor's question, when you go to a hybrid or you go to a lower economical fuel energy vehicle, you're going to increase the price by about $15,000. Just saying.
Councilor Winnie, I understand that, but it is something that we look at with our community to
Yeah.
do, and that may be a cost that we're willing to bear to have something that's better for the environment, because that's something that, the progressive members of
Now
this
you
community
could also take into consideration what kind of fuels you're going to be using. There are LPG gas vehicles out there and so forth, but then where you're going to fuel them.
I'd like to see
things
the
like
two
that, so.
offers.
Sorry. And just to add one thing, the difference between getting the 3500 and the 2500 obviously is a smaller engine and is a little bit more fuel economical. And we do report, we're actually in the process of doing our green communities report this month.
Councilor Derby?
I just want to clarify, this, I think Councilor Hayes' point is well taken. I don't know if the reception necessarily highlights that, but it's more than just that we're a green community. We actually have a city ordinance that requires us to look at the most fuel-efficient vehicle. And I think that, from my perspective, since I'm the one who put that ordinance forward 10 years ago, that, I think the due diligence done by the committee, by the mayor, by the Parks and Rec Department, for me, it satisfies it. And I am a little curious between a 2500 and a 1500, what's the difference? Are we plowing with it? Are we towing big, heavy things with it? So, but that's on me. I didn't do my due diligence. So I'm gonna be quiet because I trust that you guys are respecting the ordinance that we have. So that's it. That's all I have to say.
Additional questions or comments? Nope. Anyone from the public who would like to address the council on this appropriation? Nope. Okay. Councilor Rist?
I move that the City Council approve a supplemental appropriation request for the following. Amount requested is $36,000 to be appropriated from free cash, $36,000 to be appropriated to Capital Park and Recreation 4x4 Silverado pickup, $36,000 for the following purpose: to provide funds for the purchase of a 4x4 Silverado pickup.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve supplemental appropriation of $36,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? All those in favor? I mean, sorry, opposed, abstention. Motion passes. Sorry. Well, Luke.
All right, the next one is our Department of Public Works Director is here. And I'll ask him, actually, Joe, when we talk about all these vehicles, maybe you can address better than I the reasons why we need these vehicles and where the kind of fuel efficiency may not have the kind of economic benefit that we need. But we'll start with the $39,000, which is a purchase of the 1-ton 4-wheel drive pickup truck for the sewer division. If you could explain the need and everything you told us at Finance.
Sure. Good evening, Joe Pipchinsky, I'm the Director of Public Works. Presently, we have a 2500 series two-wheel drive pickup, and it's got a 2006, it's got 118,000 miles on it. Still a fairly solid pickup truck, but the kind of use we give it in probably 2 years, it's not really going to be worth much. The idea is to move it to park. They can probably get 4 to 5 years out of it, and we're looking for not a 2500 but a 3500. And the reason why we're looking for a 3500 is we have a flusher that we need to pull. We have a 1-ton truck that we pull that flusher with, but if we need to pull that flusher in an emergency in the middle of the night, we need a Class A driver because it's over the limit as far as weight. And we can't always find a Class A driver. With the 3500 series, it brings us down into a Class B vehicle, so all of our drivers are Class B, so we can find somebody to pull it in the middle of the night. We also need a 4-wheel drive because a lot of our, I shouldn't say a lot, but we have a lot of sewer lines that are out in cross lots. You have to go out in fields and behind yards to access those. So we need something that we could get in there and do. As far as the fuel efficiency and as far as the flex fuel, when you get into the larger vehicles, anything above a 150, which would probably tow up to 7,000 or 1,500 up to 7,000 pounds, you can use the flex fuel engines in them. But when you get into the 2500 series that you can probably tow 10,000 pounds, and the 3500 series, which we need in this one, because we have a flusher that weighs 13,000 pounds, you can't get the flex fuels in those motors. They have to be big enough and strong enough. The truck has to be just powerful enough to do it. And a lot of times the flex fuels just don't give you that option.
Okay, that helps me. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Winning.
Joe, is it a diesel or is it gas?
This will be a gas one. The new diesels with the T4 emissions, they're just a big headache, a lot of maintenance to them. So again, we're looking at trying to control cost and going with the gas.
Additional questions, Councilor Hayes?
I seem to remember us doing quite a few vehicles last year as well. And you were saying that this was, the newest one you had was like 2 years old.
The vehicles I believe we got last year was one for the highway department and the water, there was 2 for the water department. This is in the sewer department.
Mm-hmm.
Additional questions?
I just wanted to, he alluded to something that I didn't state to the council quite clearly. We are moving the vehicle that this is replacing to the Parks Department, so it's a hand-me-down, but the Parks Department will get 6 years out of it, even though it has 117,000, because they don't put the wear and tear. So the Parks Department, having lost 2 vehicles, now will have 2 additional vehicles, a new one and a hand-me-down. It's a great efficient use of our very large fleet of vehicles.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Director. And I'll call anyone from the public who would like to address the council on this appropriation. Time to come up. Seeing Councilor Rist.
I'd like the council to approve a supplemental, I move that the council approve a supplemental appropriation request of $39,000 to be appropriated from enterprise retained earnings, $39,000, to be appropriated to capital sewer 1-ton 4-wheel drive pickup, $39,000 for the following purpose: to provide funds for the purchase of a 1-ton 4-wheel drive pickup.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to approve $39,000 supplemental appropriation. Additional questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. Two more, I believe.
Yeah, thank you for your patience out there. Unfortunately, we are required by law to match our agenda public hearing notice for open meeting law purposes. So I now want to ask the Park Director to come up and talk about his loader-mounted snow blower, which I think may be necessary this year since the Farmer's Almanac says get ready. It's $120,000. The old one we have is 22 years old, and we need something dependable. And I think you said that the old one was still might be usable, but this might not be as dependable as why we need a new one, right?
The older one is still serviceable. Like I said, it was purchased in 1994. We use it after every big storm to pick up the snow in the downtown areas and also getting into the side streets in the new city and off of Pleasant Street. And that's a safety thing, because if we can't get that snow out of there, eventually the snow makes the roads so narrow that they can't get more than one car down there. And if a car parks there, then the road is closed. So we have to get in there and pick that snow up and get it out of there. If we didn't have a snow blower, we'd have to pick it up with loaders. Would never finish. It would never finish before the next storm came. You need something that can blow the snow into a truck and get it out. This snow blower that we have now and the new snow blower that we're looking to buy can load a triaxle in about 30 seconds. So you get a line of trucks, you can move a lot of snow overnight very, very quickly. We did put some money into this present snow blower about 6 or 7 years ago. New bearings, new shafts and everything. But it's getting to the point where the sheet metal is wearing on it, because when you're running snow and sand through that machine over the last 22 years, you're wearing away a lot of that sheet metal, and it's getting to the point where it's losing its strength. It's not worth a lot to get rid of it, and it's worth way more for us to keep that in case we have one go down, we have redundancy, we can still go ahead and do that. So that's what we're planning on doing.
Okay, any questions for?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one note, because I was kind of naive to this when I hear snow blower. This is not something just to, as you mentioned, to just blow snow off the road. This is what you do to load snow into the pickup trucks to send it somewhere for. So this is a serious piece of machinery.
Dump trucks.
Dump trucks, right? Dump trucks. Okay. So thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address this council on this appropriation? That being seen, Councilor Rist.
I'd like to move that the council approve a supplemental appropriation request for $120,000 to be appropriated from free cash. $120,000 to be appropriated to capital highway loader mounted snow blower, $120,000. For the following purpose, sorry I was slow, to provide funds for the purchase of a loaded mounted snow blower. Now.
Second.
Okay, so your motion is second for the approved supplemental appropriation of $120,000. Questions or comments on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. The last one.
Last one is for, again, for the DPW. It's for a four-wheel drive loader. It's a large amount of money, $225,000. I'll let the our DPW director explain it. I just want to say that all of these were approved by the Finance Committee 3-0. I forgot to mention that. Joe.
About 5 or 6 years ago, we were very fortunate where Chief Motter obtained for us 2 military surplus loaders. They were 1989s, so they weren't new by any stretch of the imagination. They both have been in service plowing snow. One of them is, 1989, they get harder and harder to get parts for them because they're so old. And then they're made by the military, which makes them just a little bit different than what they would make them for the general public. So the maintenance on them is getting harder and harder to do. And what we would like to do is replace one of them with a new loader that we can hook to the new snow blower, and we have a mated loader snow blower combination where we can pick up snow reliably and also plow snow with it also.
Okay. Any questions, Councilor Hayes?
Why didn't you look at used again? How long were the other two in service?
The other two were in service for probably 5 or 6 years. The chief is always looking for used vehicles, of military vehicles. He constantly, there's nothing there that he has for us. And again, a military vehicle, it might not, it's not readily suited to hook into a commercial connection. They're military. They do things differently.
Do you remember the cost of the military units from salvage?
The military units didn't cost us anything, I don't think.
They were free. They're not salvage. They're federal surplus. And we did talk to the chief, and we don't have to ask him, but we did just to make sure that he always keeps his eyes open for any federal surplus vehicles at all. And obviously we're thrilled to get them because they're no cost to us at all. And as Joe put in his letter explaining this, they've served us very well. So this one we will need a little bit different permission to surplus it itself, even though it's of no use. It still we have to get permission from the federal government for surplus on this vehicle, and the chief is working on that too.
One more thing. Other question?
Do we do anything with our vehicles? Are they going to be sold? This is a large sum of money. It's $225,000, which we haven't had to spend on an item like this before for the city. I thought you were saying they were free from the federal surplus.
These were.
Yeah.
Oh, the old ones were.
Yeah.
The old ones were. But there isn't anything out there that can replace them. Another case in point is that the chief found us a dump truck. We're still using that dump truck. I think that's in 1984. We're still using that. It's an international, so that's a kind of like matches up a little bit with commercial, so we can still get parts for it. So when he gets us something, we use it and use it and use it till we just can't use it anymore.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Rose.
I think the mayor did say if the federal government approves it, we are going to surplus this. So we may get some money back for it.
Correct.
Correct?
We feel it's. Yeah, we feel the value of it could be between $5,000 and $10,000.
You get something.
Something.
Okay.
Get something from nothing.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the council on this appropriation? Feel free to come to the council podium. Not being seen, Councilor Rist.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move that the council approve a supplemental appropriation request for the amount of $225,000 to be appropriated from free cash, $225,000 to be appropriated to Capital Highway four-wheel drive loader, $225,000 for the following purpose: to provide funds for the purchase of a four-wheel drive loader.
Second.
A motion, a second for the supplemental appropriation of $225,000. Additional comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
Move the public hearings be closed.
Second.
Motion and second to close the public hearings. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we're back to, as I said, we'll continue on with some public speak time. Again, as I said earlier, if you could try to keep it to 3 minutes, and if there's a duplication of thought, it'd be great if you could combine those letters or speakers. So anyway, if anyone would like to come up, address the council, please come to the podium, state your name and address.
I state my name and where I live.
Yeah, just.
I'm kind of thrilled to say this. Morellen McLeish, 63 Maple Street, East Hampton, Mass. I'm going to read from a letter I've written just so that I can use as little time as possible. I moved to East Hampton with my husband a little over 2 years ago. Due to the Great Recession, we were, in a way, economic migrants from the Boston area, where we both worked in public broadcasting, and my husband had been laid off just shy of 32 years at a radio station there. We were super lucky that my husband was offered a job in public radio in this area, and we were even more lucky that we decided to perch here in East Hampton on the 4th floor of Eastworks while we decided what next steps to take. Once here, we started attending events in town. We learned that, amazingly, this town supported an arts coordinator. We saw the arts coordinator at so many events, at so many times of day, and in so many locations, that we also learned, amazingly, that the job was only a part-time position and that the coordinator ended up working many, many unpaid hours. When we learned we were moving out here, we assumed we would be moving to Northampton. Our friends back in Boston, our family members in Franklin County, even my world-traveling hipster niece from Putney, Vermont, they looked at us and they said, "Northampton, you will live in Northampton." So while my husband started his job, I got in my car and started speed dating neighborhoods in Northampton and Amherst. I was always happy to get back to East Hampton. Eventually, I found a realtor. She showed us Florence, she showed us Williamsburg, but it became clear that we wanted to be in East Hampton. She'd show us here, she'd show us there, and we'd say, "Just East Hampton, walking distance to town, please." She'd ask, "What's with this East Hampton thing?" Upon reflection, the arts coordinator is what's with this East Hampton thing. It's the willingness of this town to support the arts on a cellular level. But the work that lights up this town, the work that drew me in, the work that's required to spark the vibrancy of this town is full-time work. I am thrilled to live here. I'm thrilled to meet my neighbors. I'm thrilled my husband isn't here as I use this word in the next phrase. I am even thrilled to pay taxes to this town so that it can fund a full-time arts coordinator. I'd like to acknowledge that all of you, too, work all-consuming hours, that your jobs take all your time and your attention, and I appreciate all that you bring to this town. You have assembled a team and are continuing to assemble a team of dedicated town employees. I'm writing this note to you to thank you for your work and to request that you build on what has been started here by making the ECA Plus Arts Coordinator position fully funded by the town to grow the vibrancy into a steady light. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else from the audience would like to come address the council? Okay, please come up and just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. I too moved here by accident, and I'm so happy I did.
Can you just say your name and
my name is Gail Herman. I live on Russell Lane in East Hampton.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say yes to everything everyone else said. One thing that we didn't mention that you need to really consider is that the Arts Council and all the activities that were given on the days of cultural chaos and art walks and other kinds of grants that were done, they really help families with children. They help them unite and have local places to go that are not expensive. So I can't stress that enough. Please consider that when you make your decision about allowing a director or coordinator, whatever you say, have the ability to continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to come speak to the council? Please come to the podium. Okay. Is there anyone else from the public? Okay. Just ending up this part of the public speak time, I would like to say, and I hope that Burns would agree, that we are also, besides having incredible art directors in the past, we have an outstanding community of volunteers, and I'm sure her work would not have been as possible without most of you here in the audience. So give yourself a hand for that as well.
Okay, so now that public speak time part is over, so we'll move on to communications from Councilor Derby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very important announcement that today is the deadline to register to vote. So if you have not done so, you should do so. And you have until 8 p.m.
An hour.
So you have an hour and 5 minutes to get here to 50 Payson, or you can go online and you can register until midnight tonight if you go to the state website, which I don't have in front of me. And I also want to announce that Massachusetts now has early voting. So from October 24th to November 4th, there is early voting available here at 50 Payson. So Monday, October 24th and October 31st from 7:30 to 5, you can vote here. Tuesday, October 25th and November 1st from 7:30 to 5, you can vote here. Wednesday, October 26th and November 2nd from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., you can vote here. Thursday, October 27th and November 3rd, 8 to 5, you can vote early, and there are extended hours. Saturday, October 29th from 8 a.m. to noon, and Friday, November 4th from 8 a.m. to noon here at the East Hampton Municipal Building located at 50 Payson Ave. And I just have one other thing. I just want to remind people that the Rag Shag Parade is going to be Tuesday, October 25th. I'm sorry, not the Rag Shag Parade. The candy bagging for the Rag Shag Parade is Tuesday, October 25th at 11 a.m. at the Public Safety Complex. So if you want to help, that would be Tuesday, October 25th at 11.
Thank you, Council. You can certainly kill a room, Councilor Derby.
I sure did. Clear it right out. You're welcome.
Mayor Communications, Mayor Cadgett.
So, Salem, you said about the Rag Shag bagging.
Yes.
Did you say about the Rag Shag Parade also? Because that's the same day.
Oh, it's the same day? Okay,
yes.
so
So Jan gave me his little posting because, as you know, he had to leave. And thank you for, he had the bagging on here too, which is always really fun.
Mm-hmm.
But what he's done in the past years, another efficient move by John, is he does the parade the same day. So we not only bag over 1,000 bags of candy, but it's pretty much easy. We give them out the same night. So they start at 6:30 from Maple Street School, and they parade over to East Hampton Savings Bank, to the parking lot in the back of East Hampton Savings Bank, which is ended up just one time being a replacement area, and it just worked out so great because it's safe, it's a little shorter, and it's just a really good location. So after the first year we used it, we booked it again the next year. I don't want to forget regarding the Mass Cultural Council Mayor's Challenge, I don't want to forget to thank very important people that were extremely helpful, did the video and the taping. And I'm a little concerned because one thing I don't like to do is ever say anybody's name wrong, probably because of everyone says my name wrong. But his name is Henry, and I know him as Henry, but I'm going to try to say his name, I have it as Amistad. So I'm sure I'm probably saying it wrong, which, sorry, Henry. And Pat Bruff and Jessica also assisted. So this was put together in a very short period of time. But when the challenge came to me as an email, there was just no way that, I thought, East Hampton, we definitely have to have East Hampton represented in them. So please, go on and vote. The Mass Cultural Council goes by the people that like it, but you have to go into YouTube and like it. So it's not quite as, quick and easy, but, still do that. So the other thing I wanted to mention is, just a little update on, on the arts coordinating position. As I think, as everybody knows, how much this administration, all of you and me, really support the arts in this city. It's evident because we're at all their events. I don't miss an art walk. I don't miss one of their fundraising events, which, by the way, they have one coming up. And so I think we all, but as far as, I just want to clear up some misunderstandings that some people might have with the wording. It is a fully paid position of 35 hours. Most everybody is aware of that, and And they are, actually, the coordinator is also extremely, extremely lucky to have an amazing group of volunteers. There is no other volunteer group like ECA Plus and East Hampton City Arts Grants Committee. That is, the support that the coordinator gets from that position is amazing. And we have been aware, every year during budget period, it comes to our attention. They actually receive an Adams grant. And we have used the position, Burns had the position approximately almost 5 years. And it used to be part-time before Burns, and it was made full-time with her. And full-time meaning 35 hours. And it's a fully benefited position. But what we have done in the past is we have used the Adams Grant funds to pay for part of the position. So the whole position is paid, all 35 hours are paid. We don't ask anybody to work for free. Labor laws would probably be at our door. But there are a lot of people, as Marcia said earlier, that volunteer, go way above and beyond, you know, the hours that they are, you know, compensated for. So, but speaking about that position, so I think the unique thing is, at one point in time, the percentages have changed. We started, when we made it full-time, you know, the city paid 30%. Every year we have increased it, knowing, like most grants, one of these years we're not going to have it. And we have no intentions of letting that position, go to the side. No intention at all. We all, value the positions that we have here. And so from 30%, now we're funding it at a little over 70%, about 71%. And so what we do every budget period is the same thing we do at every department. We meet individually with every department. We go over the budget, the needs, whatever their request is. And also, we have increased it year by year by year, knowing one of these years it'll end up being just fully funded by our budget, meaning our general fund. So I just don't want any confusion where people think it's not a full-time position, it's not, totally paid. So I think most everybody had the right information, but just for clarity purposes. The other thing that might be of interest is how many positions we have like this in the city. I think you'll be very surprised how many positions are funded through other sources. There's many other sources, grant sources, different things. So in our Parks Department alone, we probably have 30 to 40 of our positions that are funded with other sources besides our general fund. In our school, we have probably about 8 Title I positions, which are math and reading. In our Council on Aging, maybe 7, even more than that. Our city planner, our grants, our CDBG grants coordinator, all of them are funded with either grants or other sources. And so there's a lot of people that this involves. And we are so thankful to have these other funding sources, because there's no way that we could carry on all the different members of the staffing without them. So it's something we're really grateful for, but we're also very aware how grants dry up, as many have in the past. But this is a position that, we've been eyeballing and trying to increase the city side of the funding every year in preparation for that. So just for conversational purposes, and so that you all have the most current information. And I think that's all I have.
Did you want to mention the donation account?
Sure.
It's just under Mayor Communications.
Sure. Well, you all know what donation accounts are, but we were talking about, most of them are so specific to different things. We have the toy donation account. We have, the fire department has all different donation accounts, police department. But we thought it would be a really good idea if we had a donation account specifically for call it community events, spirit events, so that there's been, believe it or not, there's been times in the past where people have actually contacted me to donate money, and we do not like to turn anybody away that wants to donate money, but they want it for a general purpose, like what they think the city might see what the needs are. Say we had a 250th anniversary. you know, all different things that we might need. So that's what that request is for. It would be a donation account that we could use, people could donate to it, and we could use it for different events. It could even go toward things like the festival. We just had festivals in the park, cultural chaos, all different things. Lighting, you name it. So it's really just a general coverage of a donation account that can be used for community things, whether it's spirit related or, you know, or different needs.
Councilor?
So basically, this is just an accounting method so that if you get money that isn't targeted into an account you already have established, you have a place to put it.
Right.
Great.
Right, and exactly that, because a lot of, especially our donation accounts, they're very specific. They're used for that, and they say for that purpose. So, and that's a good thing. Those funds are never used for any other purpose. So this fund would be used for community, spirit, different, you know, needs, that type of thing.
Sorry, Councilor, I saw Councilor.
Coniff. Counselor Me. So in setting up the account, will there also be some sort of a documentation of the disbursements of it and what and how and cap and
Absolutely.
ceilings and
Absolutely. It becomes a city account the same way any other donation account is. So, you know, funds go in there, they're deposited in there. Typically, thank you letters are sent out, very, very much appreciative, and purchase orders are opened. You know, so it's a city process. It's the same process as us, whatever we purchase. You know, a purchase order is opened, approved, and invoices. So yes, there's a definite tracking of it.
Will there need to be any sort of prioritization if two things come in at the same time and you don't have enough money? How will you know who to give? What is it, first in, first out?
It's not a who either. You know, it wouldn't be.
What?
Right. I mean, it's city. It would be, you know, city uses.
Right.
So I think a lot. If we're lucky enough to receive donations, usually we ask, well, you know, what would you like this to be? And but a couple of times they said, you know, just something that the city might need that doesn't fall into any other category. So and it actually comes up a lot. There are things that, you know, that we could use it for.
So, yeah, Councilor Hayes?
Right, I wanted to go back to the city arts position.
Sure.
So you were saying that it would be a request that would come from the department, and that's the planning department, right? That they
for
send to
the budget
you
period?
For budget period?
Yes. Yes.
So it would have to be a request from the director of the planning department to fund that position 100%?
Okay, what happens every year, this is the budget process. Every year we send out all our forms and to every department. And what the department heads do is they go over it, obviously, with their department, and they put in a request. It all, you know, comes into my office. We pop it all into, you know, process it all, the data into the city system, and then we meet individually with every department head. There is no department that we don't meet with individually, and we go over line by line their request as to what they need. And that's what I'm saying. This has come up, you know, many times. Marcia knows. Marcia's, you know, been around here for a while. But these are things that I have discussed personally with Burns and Jessica in the past. And yes, the city arts coordinator is not a department head. It falls underneath the city planner, which is Jessica.
So, so during the budget period,
yes,
because, you know, we have a large amount of the public that would like to see this happen,
yep,
it would have to be a request from the planning department. That's where it would start to get that to 100%.
What I'm saying is every department requests fills out the forms and itemizes their budget requests line by line, what their expenses are, their salaries. That's what each department does. That is the budget process. And we take all the information in and enter all of it, and then we go from there. We meet with them directly. You know, this is your salary line, this is your expense line by line for every single expenditure in that department budget.
So the salary line is created by your department or by the planning department as a request?
The request comes from them.
Okay,
the
perfect.
request, like we send out the forms. It has there's a form that is that all the departments have been filling out forever. It's very basic, and what it has is the personal services line, which has salaries. You might have one employee. You might have be lucky enough to have 10.
Yep, I got
But
it.
every line item is separated. You'll see full-time positions, part-time positions, alternate positions, and that's the personnel. The next half of it, the next section of it is expenses. Whatever they need for office supplies, whatever they need for mileage, training, every single expenditure that that department is going to need during the year, they request on those forms.
So if they make that request, and they make the request for 100% for the city arts thing, and it gets denied by the mayor's office, can they then make a supplemental appropriation like other departments do for a salary?
I think you are confusing transfers with a budget.
Okay.
So when you're talking supplemental, those are supplemental appropriations that, those are the transfers in front of you.
Right,
And
but
no,
for,
it doesn't go to
supplies,
sal.
like
And it
unexpected
doesn't go,
expenses.
transfers, so once in a while, you will see transfers go to salaries when there is a
okay.
deficit because of different things during the year. But that, as I said, we personally meet with them and go over every inch of that, which is why I'm telling you about the conversations that we have had. And we talk completely openly about it, that yes, we know, it's only a matter of time, so this is why we increase it every single year. And they're well aware of what we do.
Great. So what do you think the chances are that it's going to be 100% funded in your next budget?
Well, I don't talk about chances. What I would do is I would see what we have, what we have for funding. I don't think there's a chance of, we don't take chances. It's a budget process, and we go through every single department and, what funding we have and to balance the budget. But again, like I said, we have been increasing it. We're up to a little over 71%. When we started, not even 5 years ago, with 30. So we have increased it every year.
Okay, Councilor Riss.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding you, and I think it's quite clear to me. You're funding the position 100% right now. The sources of that funding include 29% from a grant.
Other sources, right.
But you're funding it 100%, and you've made it quite clear to the council this evening that when that grant dries up, you intend to fund it 100%.
It's not.
Is that true?
It's exactly what I was saying. Is that is not a position, and sadly enough, you have seen positions 2 years ago. You've seen just 5 positions in this building eliminated.
Because grants ran
That
out.
one wasn't even thought of cutting. It was not ever our intent.
So I think the people in this room and this council is very appreciative. This councilor is, because I'm an arts person. I appreciate that, and I know that the people in the room who were here appreciate the fact that you're going to intend, as long as you're mayor, to fully fund the position. I have no problem with the grant continuing to be used until it runs out. I don't know if that's Councilor Hayes' position or not, and she can speak to that, but I think an $11,000 grant, which is what you're using, part of it, for that, is it's a good thing. And if you decided to fund it 100%, that $11,000 you would have to take from the general fund before the grant ran out has to come from someplace. So I don't have a problem with that. I know it'd be nice if the grant could be used for other arts projects, but I think prioritizing the salary of the arts coordinator with the grant is an excellent way to go, until which time is you can no longer do it. But I'm very happy to hear that
And like
you're
I
gonna fund
said,
it.
we haven't missed it. It hasn't gone unnoted, and it's been brought up in every single budget period that, yes, we're going to increase it because, it's the city taking the entire brunt of the position over little by little by little. But it's really not that little. From 30% to 71% in less than 5 years is a pretty good increase on the city's general fund side.
One last question, Councilor Hayes.
Can you remind me what the salary is and what the percentage of what the grant amount is?
I don't know if I have the salary in front of me. I think
29
the
and
salary, the total salary for the position is close to 40. It might be like 39, the arts coordinator position, the total salary. So out of that, I believe what we've been using, and again, other sources, about 29% is about 11,000. So out of the 40, 11, basically around 11 or so is used from other sources. Could be the Adams grant or different donations, different sources.
So,
and the rest of it, which would be close to 30, like 29, whatever, is funded by the general fund, by the city budget.
So just to put this forward, what the community is asking for us is $11,000 to complete the salary without any other sources involved. Correct?
It sounds like that.
Okay.
I don't agree.
No.
Okay, Councilor Winnie, did you have a question? I thought you had
No, it's
something.
Councilor.
Oh, Councilor Smith?
Now I can't remember what I was going to ask.
Okay. And you
Oh,
got
I know what
one.
I was going to ask.
Okay.
Um,
when she does
So,
that.
when we talk about a $40,000 paid position,
Benefited.
benefited,
And
fully benefited.
I think everybody knows our benefits are pretty much second to none.
So has that total amount gone up over time? Are they?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. It goes up technically about 4.5% a year.
So your
Because we
29,000 would
provide
go up
increases every year.
4.5%.
There would be a step increase and our
Okay.
COLAs, which is technically, that position has increased in annual salary by about 4.5% a year.
Okay.
You know, under my administration,
Okay. Okay.
which would be three years.
Councilor Smith, Jim?
What if the new arts coordinator comes in and is unable to fundraise that amount, and the grant dried up? Would you ask the protocol right now, would you say, worst case scenario, we can fund it 100%, but make every effort before that to get a grant? Because what I'm hearing from the coordinator is that the applying for those grants and doing all of the back work to that is part of the issue with this?
They're talking about fundraising for different events, like, you know, cultural chaos, that type of thing. And what's the name of not Light Up the Arts? So the next fundraiser that's coming up is that in November, Marcia, or December?
I think it's the last Thursday in November. It's
Right.
usually
So
around
that's, again, you know, as you know, we're all support our arts here. We're all at the fundraisers and all at the art walk, and I don't miss any of them. So that is a fundraiser that they do, and what they use their fundraisers for are, you know, different events that they need. But just to let you know, that is not all of the like when I'm saying using, you know, if we're using basically 11,000 of other sources, that is not the entire money. That is not the whole amount of the Adams grant. There is other money that is left there for the uses of that, of that department, of the arts coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not using all of the money that comes in no way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want you to think that, you know, that's all that the Adams grant gets in, we use it all, and then they don't
Right.
have
Oh, I
anything. That's
understand.
not accurate. So does that answer your question, Tamara?
It does. I was just wondering if there's a perception that the arts coordinator would have to do the fundraising to fund their own position.
No,
and
absolutely
if that's
not.
part of the issue of
Right.
concern, that no one is going to want to apply for a job if that money isn't secure without them fundraising.
No, I'm hoping,
for
and
the
that is
job.
exactly why I wanted to speak to this tonight, because of perceptions that might be incorrect. No, we don't have anybody fundraise to pay for their salary. That does not happen. But we are always aware that there are different times, especially CDBG. There are going to be different times where we are not going to always be as successful and as lucky as we have been to get these grants. And we know that, you know, that becomes the city's obligation to you know, pick up the full amount for the employee versus using parts of the grants. It's come close quite a few times in CDBG. But again, we were shocked to receive the grant this year. I mean, it's pretty rare, and it's the competition is so stiff. But we were not, that particular grants coordinator, we were not going to let her position go because of the services she provides. So the city would have, you know, paid for, you know, picked up the entire part of her salary. So these are all things that are discussed during the budget period, but it's not that we don't know that these might dry up or dwindle or whatever, because a lot of them have in years past. So we always have our eye on it, and that's why we have gradually, instead of the 30-70, now it's a 70-30. Okay? So like preparing for the future.
And I just want to also verify what you're saying is that if it came to that time and the grant ran out, you wouldn't as a fiscal move, would not tell the ORC coordinator that that's moving down to a part-time position.
No, that's not how it works. Sadly enough, when, you know, and hopefully, you know, it's I think the worst part of my job is when you have to cut positions, you know, cut them by full-time to part-time or eliminate them. It's very difficult. I'm hoping that all the different restructuring that I've been doing in the last 3 years, that's why we're actually, this year, it was just amazing that we're actually able to add positions for once. You know, for once in a long, long time. So, you know, we are very direct with our employees, you know, during the department budget process. And as I mentioned before, and I'm just using Burns and Jessica as an example, that, you know, they said, well, you know, this is, I said, yep, we're well aware that, you know, this is going to dry up, and our plan is, we know we're going to have to pick up 100% of the funding at some point in time. That's why we're gradually increasing our share. But people do not fundraise for their salary. So the fundraising that they're talking about is for the events that, you know, that they want to put on, you know, for the community.
Okay. Councilor Lynn.
I just want to put a little blurb in here. Everybody that were here tonight, I got the feeling that some of them may have thought that there was something we could do in this budget cycle concerning this position, which is not, in fact, that's not true. This would have to be going forward for the new budget, because the budget that's in place now is the budget that we are all living within. So, and again, all of these conversations take place at the department level.
Very
going
lengthy.
up to, yeah, and
It's a very lengthy
it's very
process.
lengthy
It's
for the
months.
city council to review the budget once it's given to us from the mayor, once she puts it, and the business finance director put it all together. They give it to us, and then we then go through it line item by line item, department by department.
Exactly the
having
same way we do.
public hearings. And again, our responsibility, fiduciary responsibility is, we can't add to the budget, we can only cut line items, and then it's up to the mayor to reappropriate the cuts that we can make. And that's all we can do, is just cut the budget. We can't increase it, we can't move anything.
So Joy, that's a really good example. The process that the city council goes through, line item by line item during the finance subcommittee hearings, that is exactly what we do. It's the same process, line item by line item, only we're one-on-one. We're, you know, just that one department at a time. The appointments that I make are for each department individually. They don't all come in at once. And bringing up, you know, during this fiscal year, again, everybody that was here tonight had the correct information, knowing that the position is fully funded. It's just parts are from other sources and parts are from the city's general fund. And most of them are just talking about the next budget period and wanting to make sure that that position stays in place. And also what you brought up, Tamara, is the perception. So that's really the reason I'm talking, you know, just wanted to discuss it so that, you know, miscommunication or perceptions are cleared up and everybody is, you know, on the same page and understands it for what it is.
Okay. Thank you. Actually, we're past public speak time, but after the meeting, you please talk to either.
I'm just curious when the next budget cycle starts.
Mayor, when does that next
Starting
budget-
now.
When does the next
Probably
budget
July.
cycle start?
Starting now.
July, doesn't it?
December?
I can
It's an
answer.
annual budget, yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
for 17, yep. So I think we've certainly had enough time of mayor communication, so we're still in the,
Mr. President,
yes, Councilor.
I'd like to move that the request for establishing a donation account be sent to the Finance Committee for approval.
Second.
Not this time.
Okay. So you asked to go to subcommittee?
Yes, that was my
Okay, so
motion.
motion to move that to subcommittee additional, is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all those, any additional questions or comments? Councilor Hayes, was that you?
No,
Okay.
just gonna
All
vote.
those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. Okay, standing committees, Finance, Councilor Rist, you're on again.
I'd like to announce that our next meeting is next week at 5 o'clock downstairs in room 1. At that time, we will talk about the donation account, which I think needs further discussion perhaps, We will also discuss the $750,000 borrowing and the new business we're going to have tonight. I would like to, as an announcement, and I think you might have all received this, we did very well with free cash this year. And I'm announcing this because I think it's a testament to the fiscal responsibility of our administration and the finance director that we have these kinds of funds. It sends a message to the state and to bonding agencies that we are fiscally prudent. We received $1,798,000 in free cash for the general fund, and in enterprise funding we received $1,420,789. What I mean by that, we didn't receive it, we got certified that that's how much money was left after last year's budget. And after all of the expenditures that the mayor has put forward, we will have still $657,566 in free cash and $1,381,789 in retained earnings. Our our stabilization account is close to $2 million after the funding cycle, and our capital stabilization account is $1,237,363. Again, this demonstrates that we have a very solid financial footing in our town. And what the mayor mentioned, and I wanted to not set off any alarms, but it is out there, we may get some 9C cuts from the governor's office depending on the income that the state is worried about. And that's where our stabilization accounts will come in to help us so we won't have to cut positions.
Yep.
So that's why I'm very happy to see these funds. Saying that, I'd like to move to new business, Mr. President, if that's allowed, and do a first reading.
Sure.
For a first reading, a supplemental appropriation request has been made. The amount requested is $10,565. From free cash, $10,565,000. To be appropriated to Capitol Police repeater package, $10,565,000. For the purpose of providing funds to replace a 42-year-old repeater that is no longer operational.
Second.
I move that this be sent to Finance for review.
Second. A motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
I'd like to set a public hearing at our chamber for the following next meeting at 6:15 in these chambers for the following items: the fiscal year 2017 tax classification hearing, the $750,000 free cash and general capital stabilization fund appropriation request, and the request made this evening for $10,565,000. Set public hearings at the next meeting, please. That's a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to set public hearings on November 2nd, 6:15 p.m. for those three previously read items. Additional questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
And I believe that concludes.
Okay, thank you. Public Safety, Councilor Hayes.
We have a letter going out to our contact at the Mobilite phone company. We have a list of questions that we're going to send, and we're waiting to come together with that person so that we can set up a time and a meeting to talk about all of that together with them. And then we'll move to have it to a public hearing there. And then the request to allow on-street parking on a section of Pleasant Street, I believe we're still working on the wording of that, which is a little bit tricky because we're going over a long, vast distance, and we have to use markers on every single curb cut and street and what's going on. But the parking on Pleasant Street seems to be moving along swimmingly without us, so as it was. And then thus concludes. We don't have anything else.
Would you like an extension maybe on that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's do 90 days.
Yeah.
I don't want to use all 90 days, but I would like to put on 90 days
Motion
because of the holidays.
For a 90-day extension on the on-street parking on Pleasant Street. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Thus concludes.
Okay, appointments, Councilor Smith.
Thank you. We have no old business. but we do have a number of mayoral appointments as well as the city council president appointment that I would like to request in the form of a motion to be moved to the appointment subcommittee. So there's quite a few names here. Would you like me to read them all or do them individually as motions?
Oh, no, you don't need to do that this evening, they just need to be moved to committee.
Yeah, we can just move that. You can
Need to do that when
we
we actually approve them.
Okay, so I don't even need to say what ones I'm moving over?
I'll do the city council one separately, but, I mean, the city council president CPA one, but for these, how many are there? 22? Okay, so maybe you can just move these 22 appointments to appointment subcommittee.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to move these 22 appointments to the appointment subcommittee for consideration.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion, a second, to move the 22 appointments to appointment subcommittee. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. But I'll just quickly move on here, is that the city councilor president has a CPA preservation committee appointment. I guess technically I could just appoint someone, but I think for transparency and participation, I always like to move this to appointment subcommittee. So I would make a motion to move Greg Rowland to the appointment subcommittee for consideration of reappointment to CPA.
Hardy second.
Okay, oh, good. There's a motion and a second to move this to appointments. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstained? Motion passes. Okay, so appointments. Smith has done ordinance. Oh,
Can I just set our
Okay.
next meeting for, I'm sorry, what's the date of
November
our?
2nd.
November 2nd. I think we're gonna have to do this a little earlier, so is 5:15
Yeah,
adequate?
sounds
Okay, 5:15 on November 2nd.
Is there a second for that?
She just announced it.
Oh, that's right. It's been long. Okay, so that concludes?
Yes.
Okay. Appointments, Councilor Derby.
Thank you, Mr. President. To start with some housekeeping, I would like to request for all three of our agenda items a 30-day extension.
Second. Okay, a motion second for a 30-day extension on all three agenda items. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Okay, the ordinance subcommittee did meet last Wednesday, which was the 12th of October, at which time we discussed food truck ordinance, as well as single-use plastic bag regulations. We're still moving forward with both, working diligently, and we are going to be meeting next Wednesday, the 26th at 6 p.m., and at that time the health agent is going to be there, as well as some other interested parties for the food truck issue. We did have some people come to the committee last week and talk, but we're trying to gather more information and make sure we do this right the first time. So that concludes.
Okay, thank you. I will take the responsibility of moving past property as there's nothing on the agenda, and Councilor Kwasinski is not here tonight. Rules and Government Relations, Councilor Rist.
No report.
Okay. Last thing we have to do business-wise is to approve the warrant for the upcoming election on Tuesday, November 8th.
Move that we approve the warrant.
Yes, motion a second to approve the warrant for the election on November 8th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
You sign it?
Okay. No, Barb, who is that? Everybody or just me?
What?
The warrant?
That's everybody.
Okay.
Right here, right?
Yes.
And
We have to sign a lot of the other things too.
but in the meantime, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
A motion second adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. Thank you
Oh,
very
you
much.
know, just sign it.